Hey guys, Zulk-RS here and welcome back to Messing Around with Zulk. Instead of playing Doom or any other game or whatever, this episode I'm going to talk a bit about DnD. If you are unfamiliar with the series, Messing Around with Zulk is the series where I make one-off videos doing whatever the fuck. And this, I think, qualifies for that. So, because I'm going to be talking about 5th edition D&D, I have, by the way, been playing for, Jesus, it's 2024. I think I've been playing close to 10 years now. I don't know. But anyway, uh, at this point, I think I have a pretty good grasp on the rules of 5th edition D&D. I do forget one or two rules here and there sometime and I need to look it up. But overall, I think I have a good enough understanding of the rules. But anyway, this video I am going to talk about 5th edition and a weird thing I noticed when it comes to fighter and barbarian and how those two interact, I guess. And yeah, so I already assume that if you're watching this video, you know at least a little bit the basics about 5e D&D. Like you're not completely new to it, you know how to build a character and stuff like that. You don't need to be an expert, but just know how the rules work. Anyway, here's what I noticed. So, one of the many fighter archetypes, which are fighter subclasses, is the champion. Right now, I am only showing champion, battlemaster, and Eldritch Knight here, but there are more. There are a lot more. I think there's samurai, there's echo knight, there's arcane archer, there's what else am I missing? Purple dragon knight, yeah, and there's that giant themed one, the Rune Knight, yeah. Uh, and there's also a psychic fighter subclass. I forgot. Psy Warrior, Psy Knight. I forgot the name of the subclass, but there's one like that. So there are many subclasses. I am going to talk about the champion, which is, I believe, the first subclass, or at least one of the first subclasses created for 5th edition fighter. It was there in the basic rules and it was there in the PHB, the player's handbook. So, champion is considered a pretty meh to pretty bad subclass. Like, battlemaster is really good. Eldritch Knight gives you spell casting, which is situationally useful. Like, spell casting itself, if you are a half caster or a full caster, you are one of the most powerful classes in 5th edition D&D. In fact, I would go so far as to say that almost all full casters are just straight up more powerful than non-casters. So spellcasting by itself is really powerful, but Eldritch Knight is debatable. That's not the point of this video though. So champion is a pretty meh subclass. It's basically like fighter plus, a great subclass actually for beginners, and can be pretty fun to play if you're like me, who likes a lot of passive buffs, which the champion excels at. And for barbarian, one of the first subclasses was the berserker barbarian, which is pretty bad in my opinion. Like, it can work if you homebrew out some of the very stupid drawbacks to this subclass, but in general, as written, berserker is pretty bad. But yesterday I just had a thought. What if champion was a barbarian subclass? Granted, the lore on champion, the archetypal champion focuses on development of raw physical power honed by deadly perfection. Those who model themselves on this archetype combine rigorous training with physical excellence to deal devastating blows. So, the champion, as far as theming go, does not really seem barbarian-ish. But honestly, I think with just some name changes, this can very well be a barbarian subclass. All you just need to do is change a few names. You don't even have to change all that names. Just change a few flavor text. I think, yeah, looking at this, I think to make it feel more barbarian-y, the only thing you have to change is name this section right here. You don't even have to touch most of the rules to make it barbarian flavored. Like as far as flavor text goes. So just change champion to, I don't know, devastator or something, and instead of saying raw deadly perfection, just say overwhelming force or something like that. I don't know. You can quite easily, with just 10 minutes of thinking, you can just rewrite the flavor text to make more barbarian-y. So that's not a problem. The thing is, I noticed that a lot of the features champion gets work really good with barbarian. Like more than they work with the base fighter's features. And yeah, champion doesn't have anything to do with rage. But even without rage, hold on, going back up to the class features table. But even though rage is barbarian's main in class feature, it's not its only class feature. The most important one, definitely, but not the only one. And I feel like champion works really well with every other feature of barbarian. I'm going to explain how. So the first things first, I'm going to explain what champion gets. Improved critical and superior critical. When you take the champion subclass, normally you crit on a 20, you crit on a 19 now. And later at 15 level, you crit on an 18 or higher. So basically it increases your crit chance from 5% to 10% and then later to 15%. Remarkable athlete just increases as your jumping distance and gives you extra bonus proficiency on gives you bonuses to strength, dex and con checks. Like not skill checks exactly, I don't think, but actually I guess it can count as skill checks. Like if you don't have it, I think it can work. Not saving throws though, it does not give you bonuses to saving throws. Saving throws and skill checks are different. And then you have a fighting style, which is self-explanatory. You get an extra fighter subclass feature. And then you have survivor, which is a late game subclass feature, which basically gives you very slow HP regen whenever you drop to half or lower. Or was it lower than half? It says right here. You can read the exact wording. So how would this work as a barbarian subclass? First, let's make it a barbarian subclass. That's what this is for. I should have done this when I was explaining, but let's do it. So level 3, you get improved crit. Level 7, you get a remarkable athlete. Level 10, extra a fighting style. And level 15, you get superior crit. And level 18, you get survivor. Survivor. Now, here's the first drawback. Here's the first difference that might suggest that champion does not work as a barbarian subclass unless we heavy homebrew it, which we are not going to do, by the way. We are not trying to rewrite the subclass. We are just seeing what would happen if, let's say, in an alternate dimension somewhere, alternate reality, champion was released as a barbarian subclass instead of a fighter one. And nothing else has changed much. So here's the first hurdle. The barbarians and fighters, going to the fighter class features, get their subclasses at different levels. Barbarians, I've already written at what levels the fighter gets their subclasses at. Barbs get their subclass features at level 3, level, I don't need to write level, 3, 6, then 10, and lastly 14. So already you are noticing that this gives us 5 features and this gives us 4. And this might already signal to you that something is wrong here, because how can you give, like, if you give 5 features to the barbarian from the subclass, it will already make it too powerful compared to every other barbarian subclass. But this is actually not the case. There are many barbarian subclasses. Right here in the PHB, I only am showing Frenzy, Mindless Rage, Berserker and Totem Warrior, but there are others. And I'm going to bring up Totem Warrior just for an example, but there are others. Actually, Totem Warrior is, yeah, here it is. See, Totem Warrior gets 2 abilities at 3rd level. One of them is like out of combat, and one of them is in combat. Let me check real quick. I'm opening the PHB version because I don't want a lot of different stuff to clutter things up. Let's go into Barbarian instead, so I can take a look at all the Barbarian subclasses. See, there are a lot of them. That's why I didn't do it. This one doesn't get it. This one doesn't get extra. Path of Beast, Form of the Beast, and this one doesn't get extra either. Path of Giant, this is the new one. This one gets 2. So spell, out of combat stuff and in combat stuff, just like with, did I check Ancestral Garden? I did. Just like with Totem Warrior, out of combat spell stuff plus combat stuff. Storm Herald, one thing. Zealot, again, Divine Fury in combat, out of combat stuff. Not exactly a spell, because you don't cast Raise Dead. You just don't consume resources from the caster. You don't consume material components when Raise Dead is used on you. Wild Magic, okay, 2 of them you get. This is basically just Wild Magic table as an action, blah blah blah. You know the location of any, again, out of combat stuff. So whenever, this is more of a homebrew stuff from Critical Role, so this doesn't count that much, but I'll look at it anyway. And let's see, at 3rd level you harness your fury to occur you. While you are raging, you can be knocked prone or moved along, and this is when you hit a creature while you're raging, you get pulled. Okay, this is an exception because both of these are combat stuff. Point is, most of them are like, hold on, I'm going back to the original PHB Barbarian real quick. Point is, there are Barbarian subclasses that give you 2 features at 3rd level. And one of them is usually non-combat, and one of them is combat focused. Right? Now let's take a look at Champion again. Champion gives you at 7th level Remarkable Athlete, which is basically a non-combat feature. So we can easily solve this by giving both of these to a theoretical Barbarian Champion. Then that means it would get extra fighting style at 6th level. And you may be like, hey, Zulk, what are you doing? Extra fighting style at 6th level when it's normally at 10th level? That's insane. But it's not actually as weird as that sounds. It's not actually, there is precedent for it. I am showing you why I did that. There is actually precedent for it. See, the fighter actually already gets a fighting style way earlier than the barbarian, way earlier at 1st level. So when you start as a fighter, you already have one fighting style. At 10th level, if you pick champion, you get a second fighting style. So you're using two fighting styles. Barbarian, on the other hand, which is a decision I've never really understood. I mean, I guess it makes sense from a thematic sense because barbarians are like brutish warriors who just hit hard and hit fast. They aren't really skillful, well trained combat masters. So I guess it makes sense. But barbarians, notice that they don't get, unless you take a feat, they don't get fighting styles as part of their class features. And here's why I brought up Bard. Bard is a spellcaster, yes. And look at this. Bard does not have any fighting styles. But if you go down to College of Swords, right here, 3rd level, fighting style. So if you play a Swords Bard, you actually get a fighting style which you otherwise wouldn't get at level 3. And while this isn't the same thing as a subclass giving you... Oh, go back there 1 second. And also, this is kind of limited. You get dueling and 2-weapon fighting. And while this isn't the same thing, like I was saying, while this isn't the same thing as the subclass giving you a fighting style, let's take a look at Paladin. This also counts for Ranger. I just know you can check it out for yourself, but Paladins also get fighting style, but at level 2. And the main difference between Barbarian and Bard and stuff is that Bard is a full caster that gets a fighting style under some subclasses. Paladin is a half caster that gets fighting style at level 2. Barbarian is the martial. It's not a caster class at all. So I don't think if I give, even though the extra fighting style is a feat that champions get at level 10, I don't think giving it at level 6 to the Barbarian is that big of a power boost. So we have an extra fighting style here, or I guess your only fighting style. One big boost you might add here is going back here. Martial Archetypes, Champion. You get it from the fighter class feature. So the fighter list. Paladins, Rangers, Bards, they have it in a more limited capacity than this. They don't have this many options. I know Bard doesn't have this many options. I know Ranger doesn't have great weapon fighting, if I remember correctly. I don't think Paladin has archery or 2-weapon fighting. I should really check that. Let me reopen close tab real quick. Yep. And let's see. Defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, protection. Yeah, it's missing archery. And 2-weapon fighting. My memory was spot on. So yeah, they get it in a limited feature, but again, Bards are full casters, Paladins are half casters, Barbarian is neither, so I think it's not too much of a stretch to say, yeah, Champion Barbarians can get a fighting style at level 3 and they have access to the full fighter kit. I don't think that's much of a stretch to say. Wrong place. Primal Path. Nope. Here. Yeah, I don't think that's much of a stretch to say. So you have a fighting style. Then you have superior crit at level 14, right? No, at level 10 you have superior crit. And then at level 14 you have survivor. Now, under this thing, here's the main changes that happened from going from fighter to barbarian. And Champion has a lot of powerful late game abilities. Abilities that are rarely ever used, either because they get taken off due to multiclassing, they get consumed by multiclassing, or because the game just dies before it gets to 18 level. Like, how many games have you ever played where it's level 15 or higher, or even level 18 or 20? And of those games, let's say you have a fun DM who says, alright, we are starting at level 18 or 20, we are playing a full campaign or whatever, a one shot, whatever. How many times are you going to go full level 20 fighter? And even if you do, how many times are you going to go champion? So, Yeah, those abilities you don't come into play for most games, but level 14 is a lot earlier. It still suffers from the same thing, but I can see superior crit being useful at level 10 for a lot more games than I can see it being useful at level 15. My point is. And now here's where things get really crazy. Normally, this, even after everything, champion is not very good. Because here's the thing, when you're playing as a champion, these are the problems you face. Improved critical and superior crit increases your hit chance to 15%. That is true. From 5 to 10 to 15. Your crit chance. Sorry. That is true. But at the end of the day, crits in combat are not that big of a deal when it's the player that's getting it. Unless they have some crazy combo setup. Like, unless they have something that gives them special value when they get crits, it's usually just one extra damage die. Not even double damage, it's just one extra damage die. Congratulations. You went up from doing, let's say, giving it the best scenario. Let's say you're using a great two-handed heavy weapon as a fighter. You have this belt of storm giant strength. You're using a +3 weapon, so that is this much, which is actually a pretty good amount of damage normally, but this is with normal damage. Your average damage for this comes out to about 7.5 plus 12, which is equals to 12 plus 7 and 19.5 per hit. And if you get a crit, it increases to this, which is just 7.5 is 15 plus 12, I want to say, which is equal to 27. This is not double of this. This is like 1.5 or something. Let's see, how much is 19.5 times 1.5? It's 29.25. So this is not even just working with the average damage alone. You don't even get a 50% boost to your crit damage. This is not something you get as a fighter. So really, these features are useless. Here, let's say, let's see what we are actually dealing with here. Unless you have a way to get at like advantage constantly, these features are useless, as in the best case of scenarios, 75%, no, 85% of the time, these features do nothing. Because, like I said, and all this is doing is improving your crit. You're not getting any crits. These features are useless most of the time. Then you have remarkable athlete, which is okay, and fighting style okay, and survivor again, and pretty okay. But then again, at level 18, you're only getting, let's say, you have a fighter that somehow got to con 22, maybe through a magic item, con 20 or 22. That means, giving you the best case scenario, you have a con of 22 or con of 22 with tough feet. Your HP at level 20, and my power went out again, but it's fine, I don't need the internet anymore. At level 18, let's say at level 18 instead, because that's when you get the feature. That is 10 plus 17, huh? I'm doing some math on my calculator. One sec. No, wait. Right, so fixed damage is 6, so plus 10 plus tough feet. $36. Hold on, I lost count. From base fighter, you get 10 plus 17 times 6 equals to 112 plus, then from top feet, you get 36 plus, from your con, if it's 22, you get 108. So you have max HP of 256. Half of this, that means, and survivor comes up when you get down to 128 HP. Again, this is assuming 22 con. You're not going to have 22 con most of the time. Most of the time you're going to have 20 con. And if you have 20 con, I'm going to do the math here as well. Con 20, if you have a con score of 20, then you will have, instead of this part of the equation stays the same. This changes because this is your con. This is the bonus HP you have from your con mod. 5 times 18. This becomes 90. So 112 plus 36 plus 90 equals to 238. This is the more realistic one, by the way. This 238. And this, for that, survivor kicks in when you have divided by 2, 190. Now, survivor gives you a regen of 5 plus your con. So that means you'll either have 10 or 11 HP regeneration. Right? 5 plus your con? Yeah. 5 plus your constitution mod. At level 18, 10 to 11 HP is pretty bad. Like that is, you'd want it instead of not having it. I'll tell you this much. It's not that it's useless. You do want it. It will give you some better bulk. And the main power of this, I think, is that if you end a combat with very low HP and then it takes a while for the next combat to begin, your HP is going to shoot back up to this much. So that's also really good. Survivor is not a bad feature. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that it's not like super OP for level 18 either. And it's not going to save you in combat. It's more of something like, yeah, it's really good. It's a really good feature, but again, 10 to 11 HP is not that much when you're dealing with monsters at CR 18 to 20. That was the point I was trying to make. But now let's look at this same math again as a barbarian. As a barbarian, if you're going to have the same con mod, but you're going to have more HP. At level 18, you're going to have, let's see, 16. No, not 16, sorry. 7 times 17 plus 12. 131 plus, again, if you have this and tough feet, you will have something like this, which is 131 plus 36 plus 90, 257, which, mind you, is a lot higher than 238. And it's also higher strengthen this by 1 point. It will come at online at around this same level, because when you in DnD, when you divide by something, if you have something and get to a number, like, I don't know, let's say, hey, you have to have 11 and get 5.5, you round down to 5. So survivor will come active 257. Survivor will come active at around the same HP threshold. But did you notice this? This is for an impossible amount of con. Like, it's very rare you're going to get con 22. You can, it's technically possible as far as the rules are considered, but it's very rare. And this is more normal. And with con 20 on a barbarian, you get HP comparable to this. Actually 1 point higher than this. So yeah, already survivor is giving you more HP compared to this out of combat. But barbarians have another class feature at level 20, which I will talk about later. I will get back to you. But first, let's go back to the critical hit thing. Barbarians have a few unique class features which make these abilities really, really good. In level 2, barbarians get reckless attack. What reckless attack basically does is that at the start of your turn, before you make any attacks, you decide, I want advantage on all my attacks. You make all your attacks. Then, and in exchange for that, enemies get advantage on attacks against you. But it's not as bad for you, because Barbarian Rage gives you resistance to all bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage. Here's the fun part. The resistance given from Barbarian Rage to bludgeoning, slashing and piercing does not specify magical or non-magical. It is just blanket all bludgeoning, slashing and piercing. It doesn't matter if the piercing damage is coming from some mook shanking you with an improvised knife, or the god of knives smiting you with this world sword which can cut the universe in half. It doesn't matter what you're getting hit with. If it's bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage, you have resistance to it while you're raging. So you would be having most damage, most physical damage I should say, coming towards you from reckless attack. This is fine. And also it's not that big of a deal for another reason. On very high levels, monsters have insane 2-hit bonuses. To the point where even the biggest armored dudes are going to get hit by monsters, and for a lot of damage too. So really this is a big deal at early levels, not so much at later levels. Like having advantage against, like enemies having advantage against you. Plus there might be some ways to mitigate that by that point. So yeah, not a big deal. Here's the fun part. With reckless attack, you get advantage. Now, I was going to open another tab here and pull up anydice.com and show you the strict numbers, but since I don't have internet access right now due to my power going out, I can't show that to you. So you're going to have to take my word for it. Actually, you don't. You can just look it up yourself later. Do the dice math yourself. I'm just going to give you the hard numbers. There's fighter. At level 3, actually let me go here. For fighter, when you get this, you have a crit chance of 10%. Because you won't have a consistent way to give yourself advantage. You can probably find a build. You can probably multi-class and min-max to give yourself advantage. That's fine. But I'm just saying, baseline, you won't have that. And later, you're going to have this boosted to 15%. Now, as a barbarian though, you have consistent ways of giving yourself advantage. With improved crit, if you reckless attack, you will have like a 19% chance to crit. And if you get to superior crit at level 10, which you get at much earlier at this, in this hypothetical thought experiment, you get superior crit much earlier than the fighter, you will have 27.75% chance to crit. That is more than 1 in 4 chance. You are going to be critting once every 2 attacks. Sorry, you're going to be critting once every 2 turns, I should say, because Barbarian gets 5. Like, Barbarian gets like 2 attacks per turn. Why did at level 5 they get extra attack and that's it? Barbarians only get to attack twice per their attack action. So you make 2 attacks per attack, per turn I should say, and 1 in 4 attacks is going to be a crit. Statistically, that's not going to happen in practice, but statistically you're going to be making a crit every 4 attacks. So like every other turn you're going to get a crit. But what about this math? Like crits aren't that good. Like I said, in combat they are devastating if the monster gets a crit though. Don't get me wrong. On monster side, a crit is a death sentence because monsters, especially at higher level, they have damage dice that look like this. If they get a crit with damage dice that look like that, that becomes stuff like these. Some higher level monsters might even get to roll something insane like 6d10 or 6d12. Not all, but some monsters might get this kind of damage output on crit. So yeah, that is devastating. If the monster crits you, that is horrifying. But players critting a monster, not that big of a deal. Because monsters usually have more HP than the player, and the monster and the players have less damage dice compared to monster. But let's look at the Barbarian class features one more time, shall we? Brutal critical. Beginning at 9th level, you can roll 1 additional weapon die when determining the extra damage for a critical hit with a melee attack. This increases to 2 dice at level 13 and 3 at level 17. So what does that mean? At 9th level, so let's go back to this math, okay? I'm going to keep the strength modifier at a plus 12 still. It's unrealistic, but for the sake of comparison, I'm just keeping it like that. Now, let's say you have 1d. This is how much damage you do normally. At 9th level, and this is how much damage. I should write this down. This is how much damage you would do at a crit. This is how much damage you would do when you have brutal critical at 9th level. Which is 7. Doing the math on my calculator real quick. This is how much you'll have at, when do you get brutal critical number 2? At 30th level, 2 additional dice. This is how much you'll get at 13th level. Let's say 7.5 times 4. 30 plus 12 equals to 42. And this is how much you'll get at 17th level. 3 additional dice. 5d12 plus 12. That is comparable to a Vorpal sword hit, by the way. 5d12 plus 12 is comparable to a hit with a critical hit with a Vorpal sword if it does an insta kill. Because Vorpal sword has the feature, it's a long story, I'm not diving into it. You've played the game. If you're watching this video for this long, you've played the game, you know the rules, you know what I mean. This is 7.5 times 5 plus 12, which is 49 times 5. This 49 times 5 is divided by 19.5 is 2.53 stuff 2.5. You are increasing your damage by 2.5 times here, whereas this one was less than 1.5 times. This is a huge boost. 49.5 damage on a critical hit when you have a critical hit rate of 27%. And wait, it's either 27% or 29%, I don't know. When you have a critical hit rate of this much and doing this much damage, when you get a crit, that is not a low number. That is a very big number. That is big damage to get 27.75% of the time. Let's use more realistic numbers. You may be saying, okay, not everyone is going to have a +3 Great Axe. By the way, this is Great Axe stats. 1d12 is Great Axe damage die. Not everyone is going to have a Great Axe. Okay, let's take magic items out of the equation entirely. You have a strength score of 20. If you're playing a Barbarian at level 17, or even if you roll really well, if you're playing a Barbarian, getting strength of 20 is not that uncommon. So you have a strength of 20. Oh hey, my power's back. Nice. That's not that uncommon. So let's just assume strength of 20 here. 1d12 plus 5 damage. Actually, you're going to be raging, I think. So it should be 1d12 plus 7 damage, but fuck it. I'm just assuming you're not raging. Rage just adds another modifier to it. So the actual damage output is high. If you want to count raging, actually this is just easy. If you want to count rage bonus, it's gonna be like this. A more realistic number standard. +2. Let's go check out the rage thing. +2. At 9th level you get +3. At 14th level you get +3. And at 17th level you get +4. Okay. +2. Brutal criticals both are +3 and the last one is at +4. So this one is at +4. These ones are at +3. And this is how much, this is the more realistic value, I guess. For this one, I'm going to do it again here. Don't worry. Again, I brought up that not everyone is going to have a +3 sword. I have +3 Great Axe. I understand. I'm doing that math here as well on this section. Let me just finish this part first, okay? Okay. So this is 21.5. This is 29. This is 37.5. This is 45. And this is 53.5. So yeah, this is pretty powerful. Let's do it here. Let me show you more realistic average damage values. With +2, I'm going to write this first. On crit, the reason I did not to use this value for determining how many times this is because, well, this +6 is also going to be there. Yeah, it will influence the average. You know what? To be safe, let's just do this. Okay? A little less than this, but still a big number. This number is important. This number is more important than this thing. Wait, why did I do +4? +5. This should be +5. +5. Okay. Let's see some damage values. More realistic, reasonable damage values. Now, how much does this change? This is... I did the math wrong. I just realized I'm a dummy. I did the math wrong. This is not 7.5. This should be 6.5. I am sorry. I'm a dumb butt. 6.5 plus 12. This should be 18.5. I am glad I caught that because otherwise that would have been bad. This is 25. And this is 3 times 6.5. Yeah. This is 31.5. I'm noticing a pattern here. Plus 3, so 34. 4 times 6.5. This is 38. I went from 42 to 38, right? Yeah. So there. And the last one. 32 plus 12. 44.5. And under this number, it is actually 18.5. No, wait. 25 divided by 18.5, which is close to this. And over here, it is 44.5 divided by 2.4. Again, these numbers are not that important, but this is still a high number. My argument still stands. I messed up the math, but the argument still stands. Now going back over here, so normally you do 6.5 plus 2, so that's 8.5 damage. No wait, 6.5, 11.5 damage because plus 5, and plus 2 is 13.5 with rage bonus. Over here, you're doing 13 plus 5 damage. So that's 18 with rage bonus. Over here, 6.5 times 3, 19.5 plus 5 is 24.5. With the plus 3, it's 27.5. Then 4d10, 26. With the plus 3 bonus, that's 29. And here you have 32.5, which, hold on, I messed up a bit. Yeah, over here, I forgot to add the plus 5 from the strength. I forgot to add that, so adding that, it becomes this. And over here, it is 32.5 plus 5, don't forget it. And plus 4 is 41.5. So yeah, you still have a really high damage, even with 0 magic items. So already, improved critical has become something way better, just because it synergizes well with Barbarian's class feature, in spite of not having anything to do with rage. And then you have Survivor. I already talked about that. But there is something I wanted to add here. You have, wait, what is Indomitable Might again? Oh, never mind. That's nothing else. You have Primal Champion. And at 20th level, you embedded Power of Wild. Your Strength and Constitution score increases by 4. Your maximum for discords is now 24. What does that mean for us? Well, that means, see this math? This was all for this math up here was for con 20. If at level 20, if you get con 24, that is plus 7, a modifier of plus 7. Wait, I'm not making a character sheet. Why did I put it in brackets? That is a modifier of plus 7. Let's do this HP math one more time. I'm not even going to take the tough feat this time. Again, tough just gives you times 2 for every level, like plus 2 for every level you have. So if you want to know how much these values are without tough, just don't add the 36. You can do that yourself. HP, level 20. 112 remains the same. No, wait, that's for the fighter. 131 remains the same because we're dealing with a barbarian here. The 90 turns into a 140 because we are at level 20. And in brackets, because this is if you have the tough feat, don't add this if you don't. Oh, sorry, this becomes 40 because you're at level 20 now. That means you will have have a total HP at this level of 131 plus 140, 271. With the tough feat, you would have 311. Survivor is going to come up, is going to get active when you drop lower than 135. Remember, round down for dice rolls, round down for fractions in DnD. When you, I already explained that. When you have to divide a dice roll or a number by something and the result is like point something something, unless stated otherwise in DnD 5e you always round down. So that's why 135. And if you had the tough feat, it would come active at 155. But that's not all. Remember, Survivor regenerates its con plus 5 HP. Your con mod right now is 7. You regenerate 12 HP. If you had that magic item that gives you another plus 2 to con, these numbers would go up even more. Let's do the math actually. A survivor, oh, and with that you'll get 13 HP then. Let's do the math. If you somehow, this is very, very unlikely, don't expect this to ever happen. If you somehow get a con of 26, this is how much HP you'll have at level 20. 131 stays stable, but you now have 8 times 20, which is 160 from con, and 40 stays stable. So essentially you're getting 20 more HP here. 291, and over here it is 331. Survivor activates at divided by 2, 145, and with the tap feat it activates at 165. And remember what I said, that when monsters attack, they do so much damage at this level that even this much HP is not going to do anything. Like, yeah, it's going to be helpful, but you're not going to out heal monster damage. That is what I was trying to say this whole time. I don't know why it took me that long to properly word what I'm trying to say, but whatever. And you with only 12 to 13 HP regen, especially at this, when you get down to half HP, you are not going to be out healing monster damage unless you get lucky and the monster misses a lot. But remember, barbarians while raging get resistance to all physical damage, i.e. bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage. Even at late levels, monsters mostly do magical bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage, but a lot of monsters, magical or otherwise, a lot of monsters still do bludgeoning, slashing and piercing damage, which you will resist while you're raging. So this effectively, for those situations, this effectively becomes like 24 or to 26. This is not 24 to 26 HP healed. No. This isn't that. This is how much damage you can soak with 12 to 13 HP when you're raging. So yeah, I don't know, I might be missing something here. Maybe I'm just too caught up on the numbers. Maybe I'm missing, because here's the thing, when you're playing D&D, what works in theory does not always work in practice. Let's get that out of the way. All the power building, all the multi-classing, all the feat, all the theory crafting in the world cannot save you Oh, when the GM keeps rolling crits and you keep rolling nat ones. I remember I had a character once where it was an elf archer character. I rolled really well on dice rolls. I think I had a +4 to my dex, either +4 or +5. I don't remember. I think I had an 18 dex, but I might have even had a 20 dex. I was a fighter. We were at level 1, I want to say. So I was a 1 or 1, 2, doesn't matter. I was a fighter. And with the archery fighting style. Archery fighting style, which gives me +2 to hit. I had at level 1 or level 2 +8 or +9 to hit. Right? Yeah, I think I had +9 to hit. And I swear to God, for the first 8 attack rolls on the D20 that I made on that game, 1d20 +9 gave me numbers that are in the 10 to 13 range. I didn't get nat 1 every time, but I rolled like, was it first 8 attacks or first 5 attacks? Something like that. Either 5 to 8 attack rolls. So basically, out of, it doesn't matter. Basically what this means is that every 1d20 has can give you a number in the range 1 to 20. With my +9, I got numbers like, if you don't count the modifier, I got numbers like this: 1s, 2s, 3s and 4s. I got 1s, 2s, 3s and 4s the whole game. The whole freaking game. Yeah. These are the numbers I kept rolling. So like I said, with this kind of bonus to hit, I should have been hitting every time. I should not have been missing. Hell, even when I rolled a 4, AC 13 is good enough to hit most things. It just so happened that the enemies had like AC 14 or something like that. This is not the DM's fault. I didn't create a bad character. The DM didn't throw hard encounters at me. I was useless in the first 2 to 3 combats of the game. Not because the DM did something, not because I did something, not because my dice was faulty, because I was using digital dice, but because I just got unlucky with the RNG. It was no one's fault. But that's how RNG happens sometimes. So like, my point is, even the best theory falls apart in front of practice. It doesn't matter how much you're power building, how much you're min-maxing, how much you're multiclassing. In practice, things may not go your way. But that being said, in theory, I think champion Barbarian here in this hypothetical is insanely good. At least way more compared to champion fighter, which was what was actually released in our universe. I would wager that this version of the champion, when given to the Barbarian, and please note that I made almost no change to how the mechanics of the subclass actually works. All I did was move around some attack feat, move around one and class feature to an earlier level to be more in line to how the Barbarian class works. And just by doing that, that is the only change I made. Just by doing that, I think I ended up with a subclass that can compete with some of the best actual Barbarian subclasses in the game. Totem Warrior, Zealot. Actually, is Zealot that good? I don't know. I think Zealot is really good. But it can compete with that. this is a powerful build. And you know what's funny? When you think of the barbarian, what subrace comes up to your mind? Just close your eyes and imagine a raging, heavy hitting fantasy barbarian. What comes to mind? Humans? Orcs maybe? Orcs, half orcs maybe? If you're a bit on the furry or scaly persuasion, maybe even Leonine, Tabaxi. Tabaxi not so much, Leonine or Dragonborn. Tabaxi you can make a case for. But does half-elf and elf something come to your mind? Like immediately. I know you've played half-elf barbarians and elf barbarians before. I know, hell, even I think I played a game once where one of the players had a half-elf barbarian. My point is, when you picture barbarian, elf or half-elves is not the kind of class that pops up into your mind, right? But in this scenario, elves and half-elves might make one of the most devastating barbarians out there for one reason and one reason only. A feat called Elvish Accuracy. Of course, I need to look something up here. Hang on. Never mind. Disregard everything I just said about Elven Accuracy. You need to attack with this. You need to make an attack roll using Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. So, never mind. Forget everything I said. Elves still don't make good barbarians. Well, they do make good barbarians, but it doesn't make one of the best barbarians, like I was alluding to. I'm an idiot. Forget what I said. But I still stand by this. I think Champion Barbarian might be a very, very powerful combo. It's too bad that this is impossible. This is just a headcanon theory crafting session. This is not a build you can actually play unless the GM is cool with you doing it. And even then, if a player came up to my game, I'm very cool with homebrew, by the way. Well, not really. I'm not very cool with homebrew because I usually like to keep things by the book. I do add a lot of homebrew to my games, but I usually don't allow homebrew classes or subclasses. So no, I won't allow this actually. But your GM might, I don't know. But yeah, this is just a thought experiment, like a what if scenario. What if Champion was a barbarian subclass? And what's interesting here is that not that this is a broken build, because like I said, this is not a possible build. You cannot play this rules as written unless your DM allows you to do this. Even then, I would advise DMs don't allow this if you have another player playing a fighter, because if you have a fighter and your barbarian player busts this out as a homebrew subclass, that's just going to overshadow the fighter. That's just going to step on the fighter's toes, steal the spotlight from the fighter. So I advise against allowing your players to play this. Not because it's broken, but because I think it might overshadow a different player playing a fighter. But if there are no fighters on your table, then I guess you can allow it. Then it's up to you, your wish. If you want to allow it, allow it. If you don't want to allow it, don't allow it. The DM has the final say when it comes to allowing homebrew. But the reason I brought it up is because what I find interesting is that the champion, as it exists here, it is considered one of the worst subclasses when you're playing pure fighter, no multi-class. But giving the same class features to barbarian as a subclass, like I'm not even taking these features onto an existing barbarian. I'm replacing their subclass features with champion features. It ends up with what I'm looking at here, what might be one of the stronger barbarian subclasses. Not the strongest, I think some actual barbarian subclasses are better in the long run. I think Zealot and Totem Barbarian might be better. A case can be made for Storm Herald. I like Storm Herald Barbarian. I don't have much experience with other Barbarians like Ancestral Guardian. And Berserker is really good as a DM enemy. Like, going on a tangent here, Oathbreaker and Death Cleric were originally Cleric and Paladin subclasses designed to throw against the party and not for the party to play as. And Berserker seems like the Barbarian version of that for me, because the main drawbacks of the Berserker Barbarian gets thrown out the window when it's the DM. Who cares if they gain exhaustion levels? You're not expecting them to survive this fight because you're throwing them at your PCs. They are the BBEG. So, or a mini boss. So yeah, Berserker is really dangerous as an enemy to throw at your PCs. But that is neither here or there. My point is, champion becomes way better on the barbarian than it ever was as the fighter, and I find that really weird. And the takeaway from all of this has made me wonder what would happen if I did this same thing with other subclasses from other classes. Like, what if I tried to give a barbarian subclass to the fighter to even out, but sadly all of the barbarian subclasses have something to do with rage, and that is not remotely a mechanic the fighter has, so that didn't work. But yeah, I wonder what would happen if you gave some of the other subclasses to other classes. Might be a nice thought experiment. And this actually works really well, and it ends up being kind of balanced, I think. Like, it's not broken. I wouldn't say it's OP to the max. But yeah, overall that's this video. It's 1 hour of Zulk going crazy over DnD. And I think it's time I end the video here. If you're wondering about what happened to MakeQuest, I lost power and I lost internet connection mid recording, and now I have to record a second session and stitch it together in editing software. So there's that. But for now, that's it for this video. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and or subscribe. Dislike it if you hated it. I'll heart your comment to let you know I've read them. So just because I added your comment doesn't mean I agree with it or endorse it. What do you think about a champion barbarian? Let me know. What's your opinion on all of this? I was just ranting like a conspiracy theorist this whole time. But either way, I'm Zulk-RS and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.